Hey y'all, I wanted to show you the story here. If you notice on my first video, my Ted Nugent hunt, I only tell the story of one hog. However, there's two hogs in the picture. So I kind of wanted to do a separate video for the second hog because it's kind of an interesting story. It's kind of cool. So these are the items I was using. Of course, I had on, all my winter coats and all that stuff. So I'm stalking up on these sheep. There's some doll sheep, and there's a herd of them. I had seen them when I was in my first stand before I actually took my hog. And at first when I looked, if you notice in that video I said, I think there's a group of hogs. It was actually sheep that were milled around some food. So I was watching my binos, and there was a couple beautiful ones there. And I really wanted to shoot them. So for this hunt, you can either take a sheep or a hog, or if you want to you can take an extra animal, but they charge you extra. So I'm like debating, do I want this sheep? But I really wanted a wild boar. So I'm like, all right. So I get on my phone, I text my wife real quick. Reception is terrible. I'm like, can I take an extra animal? Didn't hear back from her. Finally, the message went out after 5 minutes of trying. And I even tried to call her. I'm like calling her, and she'd pick up, and just as I was about to talk, it'd drop. Did that 3 or 4 times. So I'm really trying to get, I want to get this extra animal. Yet, okay, it's a long story as to why, I asked and everything, because, there's a future hunt I want to go on, so I don't want to just take it and not be able to go on this future hunt, right? So, call my wife. Then the sheep start moving off into the woods. I can still see them, but they're really hard to see, hard to make out. They're kind of hiding behind trees. Just as, as they kind of get up there, then I hear back from my wife. And she had actually texted me 6 times, take the extra animal, take the extra animal. She's like adamant about it. But I missed my opportunity. So I was at the stand. Then for a while, Paul Wilson came, moved me to another stand. And that's actually where I ended up popping my first hog in that stand. So he comes, picks me up after that, go to lunch. And he's like, okay, I know you want to take this sheep. So he puts me in a stand for a while. Still a couple of people who haven't got hogs yet. So he put them in the best hog stands and put me in a okay spot for taking sheep. Not the best. I didn't see any, even though we had seen some earlier there in the morning. Anyway, make a long story short, he had to take some people out. He thinks they hit wounded a hog. He had to go find it. So he dropped me off at these woods, and he's like, you can spot and stalk the sheep. They're over there. You're going to have to move around the side of the woods, and you're going to have to sneak in directly at them until you get a good shot. So I'm going through the woods. I'm doing stalking, all that stuff. And I see them, and they're kind of circled around this big tree. Problem is, they're all in so tight, because I started off maybe 100, 150 yards away. I actually got to within, probably maybe 60 yards, if that. But they were all so close, I couldn't get a shot, and I don't want to wound one and have to pay for, 2 sheep. So I'm sitting here, and I dropped my Primo sticks, and I got them in, and I got them in my sight. I'm sitting here watching them. There's 2 or 3 that I would want. There was 2 really nice looking white ones, and then there was another one that was multicolored and had a really cool looking face. But I determined the one with the nicest rack was one of the white ones. So I'm watching him, and of course he's the one that everybody in the little herd is hovered around. So it's like I got a headshot, and that was it. So I'm sitting here, and finally, and I'm kind of actually trying to make myself seen so that maybe they'll start moving off. So finally they start moving, and I never get a shot. Every time I got a shot, some other animal would scurry between me and him. So I start, moving after him, going through the woods, and as I'm moving through the woods, there was a herd of buffalo, right, that we had seen when we were coming in. They freaking take off. They're running through the woods. And about that time, I didn't realize that there were like 30 deer watching me. And they start moving around, taking off. And these goats are moving faster because they're getting nervous, and I'm starting to move faster. I notice that there's a ridge, and it's not a big ridge, maybe like 5 feet tall total. But if I get on top of it, there's a clearing where I would get a clear shot at these sheep when they move into the field. So I'm moving up this ridge, and all of a sudden now deer sending up their white flags. They're taking off like bats out of hell. And so these sheep start taking off. So I kind of get by this tree. I'm like, okay, this is probably my last opportunity to take a shot. So I'm right here. I'm just about to take this shot, and I hear this wheeze, snort, grunt, horrific sound. Like, oh crap. So I look, and there's a hog. Big one. Biggest one I've seen all weekend. Sitting probably maybe 20 feet away from me, staring right at me. I'm like, great. You know, I hear these things can be pretty mean. So I kind of look around. I know there's a stand like 100 yards that way. I know I'm not going to get to the stand. I don't know that much about hogs. We don't have hogs here in Wisconsin. I don't know that much about them. So I'm like, are you supposed to back away from them? I know with most animals you don't obviously want to run or move fast. Do you try to intimidate them? That was the course I went. I'm trying to, grunt and trying to get this thing to move. In the meantime, I got a mag. I got 5 rounds. A 5-round mag, but I've already shot 1 round, so there's 4 rounds in here. So I'm trying to get to my other pocket. Problem is I have like 5 layers on, so I'm trying to get through all these layers, get this mag, and this hog is kind of slowly moving towards me a little bit and wagging its, it's got its tail twitching, all this stuff. So there's a tree right here, so I set my sticks on the tree. So I'm gonna get rid of them. They're out of the picture for now. So I pull up my sight and I kind of look at the hog just to see what it looks like through my scope. Just in case I have to shoot it, I have an idea. So I'm watching the hog, kind of lower my rifle a little bit. I'm looking around just to make sure there's not other hogs sneaking up on me. And she all of a sudden starts walking off. She walks about 5 feet away, kind of circles, and then stops. And then looks back at me, and I'm like, great. Then she starts coming at me. And then she starts running faster, faster, faster. Finally, like, boom! Nailed it. She drops. Actually, she didn't completely drop. Her front feet drop. Her back feet are still running, so she's doing a little spin thing. And then she dropped. She only went about maybe 10 feet and then dropped. So there she is on the ground. I'm like, that was pretty intense. I mean, because she actually, unlike a lot of the hogs we saw, actually had tusks in her. Most of them had the tusks broken off from fighting and stuff. So there she is on the ground. And I'm still scanning, looking for other hogs. I don't want any sneaking up on me. And finally, maybe 10 minutes later, I see Paul driving up in his truck. So I go down, I yell at him, I'm like, that was intense, man, getting charged by a hog. I mean, I've never had it happen before, right? So, he picks me up. We go back in, take these other people in, and then I hook up with Ted Nugent, and he drives me back out. We're going to throw the hog in the truck. So as we're walking through the woods to get this hog, all of a sudden, there it is. We see a burrow, has 6 piglets in it. I was heading straight for it, and it was maybe only like 10 feet away from me. Maybe 10, 15 feet away from me. So that's why she charged me. So, pretty interesting story for me, anyway. Maybe some of you hog hunters out there have had this happen all the time, but for me, I've never had a hog charge me, so that's pretty cool. So, anyway, that's it.